Today I will explain through this short video key aspects we have discussed during this week. The main purpose of it is to recap basically two ideas, the concept of research. In order to do that, I will use Kresge 2005 concept. One part of it, he says research is a process. But now, what type of process are we talking about? So definitely it's a systematic process because there is a specific set of procedures the researcher needs to follow to arrive at a conclusion, to draw certain conclusions. It is rigorous enough, this process. It is a rigorous process because the rigor needs, on it depends the quality of the conclusions, the quality of the findings that will be shown at the end of the process. This rigorousness starts even before the researcher starts, and that deals with how the researcher approaches the gatekeepers, people in charge of the setting in which the research will take place. But also, the rigorousness is shown when the data is collected, when the data is analyzed. Even after the data is analyzed, in which the member checking takes place, in which the researcher and the participants come to agreement about the interpretations on the part of the researcher. It is also an organized process, and that tells the structure of the research, depending either qualitative or quantitative research. But this structure tells the quality of the research that is conducted. Now, I ask you, is there any other adjective you can add to define this process? Well, go ahead and add some other qualities that might be depicted in a research process. Go ahead and describe them in the forum I will create for you to do so. Now, in terms of the steps, some authors describe it in a simple three-step process, but that deals with posing a question, collecting and analyzing data, and reporting those findings. However, Kresge 2005 expanded, he's one of the authors who expanded these three steps into 6 steps, the ones that I'm going to explain below. The first one, it is the idea of identifying a recent problem. Yesterday, in one of the classes I had with you, you told me that a problem may come, a researcher may come up with a problem after reading a paper. At the end of a research paper, the researchers, authors, suggest further ideas or ideas to be further developed, researched. It also, a problem can be identified in a classroom. Here, for instance, I might think of what makes it a teacher to use a platform better than the other. But you can see it from the point of view of a learner. The benefits, the difficulties, the challenges of learner mediated by these ICTs. So there's several ways for you to identify a problem. Once it's identified, we need to review the literature, basically to see what others have found about the problem, to see if there is a gap in knowledge. And that's precisely one of the reasons of it, to see how the research I'm doing will help fill that gap. One of the questions I asked in the previous forum was the difference between identifying and specifying. And you really nicely explained that. And specifying a research problem basically deals to narrow it down. And the best way to narrow a problem down is to ask a question. So it's not only about saying, well, a topic, which is, I am interested in ICTs, the use of ICTs. Well, that's a very broad topic that should be identified. For example, what type of strategies do high achievers use in a classroom to be successful? What type of strategies do teachers use to teach a lesson? And that's, by the way, the type of questions that are number one when doing a research problem, the what and how. How do students use the strategies suggested by a teacher? Now, it is the time to collect data. And as I said before this, I'm just basically putting together all what you have said, all what you have read, all what you have watched from the videos, all what we have discussed in class. And you already said that there are two distinct ways of collecting data, depending either if it is quantitative or qualitative. Quantitative, you think of instruments to reach several hundreds, many, a large number of participants, like a survey. You mail it, and you're going to reach 5,000, 10,000 participants. A questionnaire, similarly, can be emailed or can be given to the participants online. However, when talking about qualitative research, interview and classroom observations are number one. Interview gives the opportunity to expand ideas, to talk, to ask open-ended questions, differently from the questions asked in a questionnaire, which are closed-ended. Once the data is collected, the activity that follows is to analyze and interpret. There are several strategies to analyze data. Hatch 2002 suggests like 5 techniques. Most of my students in the last course of research, they have favored the use of interpretive strategies to analyze data. No matter what technique you use, you can use also a software, computer software, to make it easier. And finally, the interpretation. The interpretation can be in the light of a theory that has been used with the study, or can be in the light of prior studies to contrast, to compare my findings, the findings of this study, with prior findings. Finally, when everything is done, the researcher is ready to report findings and then the evaluation of that research. So let's split it into two. The report of the findings could be in 2 ways. Number one, in a congress, an oral presentation, a plenary, a report, oral report of what I have found. But it also could be in written, in the form of a paper, like the ones you're going to read next week, published in different journals at a local, national or international level. This seems to be the whole process for you, for a researcher to go through when doing a research. Before this, I already said that, member checking, before the report, the participant has the right to know how the researcher reports the finding, how the researcher interprets the data that was given. This is an ongoing conversation, so you may place questions, you may keep on asking questions in the forum. We can respond to this video. If there's something you don't understand, if there is something you want to add to it, is more than very welcome. I hope that this short video helps you to recap the key aspect we have discussed during these 2 weeks. Thank you.